Truth wears no mask, seeks neither place nor applause, bows to no human shrine. She only asks a hearing. A very pleasant good day to you wherever you may be, and welcome to the University of Common Sense. My name is Tim Morrow, and the subject we want to talk about is the heart and the circulation system. Now, the heart is something that terrifies us tremendously in this country. Why? Because heart attacks are so common. I forget what the statistic is when it starts talking about every so many minutes somebody has a heart attack. But let me tell you something. The heart attacks are not by chance. We rule what's going to happen, if we're going to have a heart attack or not. The best way I like to say it is, nobody ever has a heart attack. We attack our hearts, and then when it stops beating on us, we're surprised. But this is what we've done to ourselves. Doesn't make any difference whether it's out of ignorance or knowledge that we do it. The same thing happens all the time, and over and over and over again. Now, what I call pretty near crazy is when we continue to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. You can't continue on to do what your grandmother did and what your mother did, and when they had heart attacks, you can expect to have a heart attack yourself. That's not genetic. That's violation. And that's what happens with most of us. Few people are really born genetically with weak hearts. And even if you were, you can overcome it. It's pretty simple to overcome a heart that is weak, genetically or otherwise, because the body heals itself. It takes care of itself. If you've ever seen me in the past, I talk about the fact that we are regenerating ourselves every minute of every day. Every 90 days we have new blood. Every 11 months, every organ in our body is new. That means at the end of 11 months, you have a new heart. And every 2 years, we have new bones. Now that is going to happen no matter whether you're eating good, bad, or indifferent. That process happens. In fact, we get rid of 1 billion dead cells an hour, and each one of those cells is replaced with another. Now, I don't know if you heard what I said. I said 1 billion, not million. The difference between a million and a billion is that a million minutes is 9 days. A billion minutes is 33 years. That's quite a difference. We get rid of 1 billion dead cells each hour, and each hour those cells are replaced by a new cell. They are also replaced by what we put through the gland canyon, the mouth. It's what we eat that builds our heart, that builds any part of us. It is our bloodstream that takes everything where it needs to go for us to be well. And so that means that the blood is literally the life of the flesh. Now, if it's the life of the flesh, then you've got to make sure that the bloodstream is clear and clean. And that's what this is all about. Because when you hear me talk about the colon and how you need to work with cleansing the colon, and how you need to keep the lungs clean, and the liver and the kidneys and all the channels of elimination need to be clean, they're done for one reason. One reason. The bottom line is a clean bloodstream. No other reason here that we're doing this, because the blood is the life of the flesh. The blood must be pumped to every part of the body. There's no part of the body that is minus blood. So to avoid all that, we must keep the blood flowing. And I have a vested interest in me, so that means that I'm responsible for taking care of this unit in which I have my being. And why not? Doesn't that seem fair? Especially my heart. If my heart stops beating, I have a big problem. It's probably going to be the end of my life when my heart stops beating. Okay? So that is what pumps that blood. So you want a clean bloodstream, and you want it to be when it changes every 90 days, you want the best blood that you can get. That's up to me. In fact, number one is according to what I eat, because that's what's going to be turned into blood. That means if you eat pig, you're going to end up having pig blood. If you eat white rice or white sugar, you're going to have white rice, white sugar blood. So it becomes very important. Now, let me tell you, we have over 12,000 miles of bloodways. That's the distance from New York to Hong Kong via the Panama Canal. Our heart does a magnificent job for us. There's no day when it should turn around and say, okay, I've taken care of you all these years, now I'm going to have an attack. Doesn't make sense. Nope, doesn't make sense, because that's not what happened. We clog the arteries and veins with the white rice, white sugar, pastas, pizzas, meat, spaghetti, macaroni, cheese. Well, let me tell you something. That waste is in every part of the body. You have to clean the whole thing. It's not a matter of cleaning up one part of the body. There's a guy named Dick Quinn, and he wrote a book called Left for Dead. That's what that book looks like. Left for Dead, and it's by Richard Quinn, Dick Quinn. It's a true story about what happened to him. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to read some excerpts from this book. This book, written by Dick Quinn, tells his story. And I really wish that you took time out of your life, pick this book up and read it. But there's a couple of things in here that I want to read. He's talking here about after his surgery. This is where I want to begin with this. After his surgery, and he headlines it, My Decline. He says, I began to feel myself getting weaker almost the day I got home. I tried to take long walks as the physician therapist at the hospital advised, but I felt faint at the least exertion. After I had been home about a week, I decided to drive to a nearby lake for some sun. It was an eventful decision. I met an acquaintance at the lake, an older woman who was the mother of her friend. She noticed I was exhausted after the short walk from the car to the lake shore and abruptly told me to begin taking cayenne red pepper right away. I lay on the sandy beach under some young willow tree, utterly spent. She spoke of Dr. John Christopher and said cayenne would help me recover my health and prevent another heart attack. And this is what he says about that. Listen to what he says about that. It seemed preposterous to recommend red pepper after what I'd been through, as if that could help. This was a serious, no-nonsense matter. She told of seeing Dr. Christopher recently at a seminar at a Midwestern hotel during a break at the proceeding. A man had a heart attack in the lobby. Christopher hurriedly gave the man some water and cayenne, mixed it up, and gave away, and the man got up and walked away in just a few minutes. So this is what he says about his family. He said in his condition, after the surgery, he had a triple bypass. After the surgery, he said, I expected to die at any moment. And I see people who have had surgery, who have had a heart attack, with that very same attitude, expecting to die at any minute. Isn't that amazing that after the surgery, he's expecting to die any minute? Something is wrong with that. Something is definitely wrong with that. He said, I lived like a mushroom, hiding from death. Every day I got weaker. I looked and felt like I had been hit in the chest with a bowling ball. I had no pep, no stamina, no energy, no color, no enthusiasm. I was too depressed to kill myself. That's depressed, isn't it? He said, the family spoke in hushed tones when I was around. Mustn't upset poor old dad, lest he break in half or clutch his chest and fall over dead. I had become a ghostly visitor in my own home. Now, he says that morning, my doctor was supposed to have the knowledge, so I thought I didn't have to understand. He would do the thinking. I would simply obey. I was dying from heart disease, but it wasn't even sure that's what it was. He said, and then he said, came to his mind, cayenne. It won't do any good, he said, but it was the only other thing that anybody had suggested. from that minute on, he decided to try the cayenne pepper. And his story goes on. He's alive 18 years after his surgery. And the reason why he's alive is because after a $40,000 angiogram and all the bypass and all that, it had failed. He left that morning and he went and bought a 69-cent little bottle of red cayenne pepper from a supermarket. He said he went home, he stirred it up in water, and he started to sip it. It was snowing where he was. It had snowed. It was now a clear day. He had looked at his roof and seen that if he didn't get that snow off his roof, the roof would cave in because there had been a lot of snow, because he lived up in Wisconsin. That's snow country. Anyway, forgetting all about his problem after he drank the cayenne, he went out and started to shovel the snow away. He had no intention of doing that completely because he had 2 kids, and he was just shoveling it out of the way so that people could get in the door. And then after that, he was going to have his children get that snow off of the roof and out of the driveway. Well, before he realized it, he had cleared the driveway up totally. And he stood there looking back, thinking about he should be sitting in the house, relaxed and taking it easy. And he wondered, what had happened? How come he felt good? Well, he found out why he felt good. He climbed up on top of the house and he took the rest of the snow off of that house. In fact, in the book, there's a picture of the house that he had that he climbed up on and got the snow off of, with a little bit of the snow still left up there. But the story is true and the man is real. And the reason why he's alive today is because he chose to take care of himself. And I think that's what has to happen for each one of us. If you are a heart patient and you are taking Indoril, one of the side effects of Indoril that they don't lie about, they print it right in the book, one of the side effects of it is that it will cause heart failure. Is that absurd? Or maybe I'm lost here somewhere. Maybe something went over my head. But when somebody tells me that I am going to take a drug that will cause me to have a heart attack, and I'm taking the drug to prevent a heart attack, I don't believe that I would take the drug. So it needs that we need to take a look at ourselves. I want to take a real quick glance at the chart here I have of the blood weights. It's just a very simple chart, but it gives you an inside view of what has to happen to us. And I'd like to take a look at that now, because we have to kind of understand how our heart and the blood waves work and why. What's the reason for all this? What do we need this blood to every part of our body for? Well, there is a reason, and I'd kind of like to show a little bit of that right now. This is just a general picture of the circulatory system. But the red there is telling you about where the blood has to be pumped. You'll see the blood must be pumped up into the head. It must be pumped to the fingers, to the very tip of our fingers and to the very tip of our toes. The job of the heart is to do exactly that. The heart works in conjunction with the left lung. That's the reason why the heart is a bit to the left rather than right in the center of it. It's a bit to the left because in this lung there's kind of like a cutaway where the heart fits right into that lung, and it picks up the oxygen from the lungs, and that is what takes it to all the parts of our bodies. If we understand that as people who work for a living, that we sit down and don't do much running around, we'll find that this blood ends up pumping out to about here, only to about here. So these are the extremities, the feet, the hands, and the head. These are the points farthest from the heart. These are the points that's farthest from the heart. And so extra measures have to be taken to pump that blood to the rest of the body. Now, this is 12,000 miles of bloodways. I mean, this is just a little scant detail, just giving you an idea of how the blood runs. But there's actually 12,000 miles of bloodways that has to take, and this heart is the only pump that we have to take care of it. Well, if that's the case, then we should know what makes us work correctly. We should know what makes us work correctly. What makes that heart work correctly? There's an herb called hawthornberry. Hawthorne, hawthornberry. The only job hawthornberry has to do is to give you a new heart every 11 months. Now, I'm only speaking of one. There are many other herbs. Blessed thistle is also another one of those herbs that takes. But haven't you ever noticed, like men, you'll see this mostly in men. You'll see a man with a hairy chest, big hairy chest, and he's got black hair down here, but up here the hair is gray. Why? Because the blood has to be pumped upward. Remember, this blood is being pumped upward to the head as well. One of the reasons why we gray so easily is because of the fact that there's no oxygen getting to the extremities. But the biggest reason today for people being disabled is because they are not receiving the right amount of blood into the extremities, especially the feet where we have to walk. And that is because of drugs. One of the side effects of drugs is that it stops circulation in the extremities. Again, they don't even lie to us about it. That's the reason why we must take responsibility for our own health. Find out. This guy went from a $40,000 bypass surgery to a 69-cent box of cayenne pepper. And that's the way he got his health back. Yep, the answer is in the cupboard in the kitchen. And that is what red cayenne pepper does. That's what hawthorn berries does. That's what all of these wonderful herbs that are available without side effect. Do they work? Ask any dog. Ask any horse or elephant. When they get sick, they go to nature. Why? Because that's where the answer is, without a doubt. And there are no side effects except that you get well. Isn't that a great thing to do? The reason why I'm here is to remind you of one thing. Growing old does not make us sick. It is growing sick that makes us old. For the University of Common Sense, I'm Tim Morrow. And you'll see us next time, we hope.